Sasquatch sunset. I'll never forget passing out. I was the only person in the theater. I fell asleep, woke up to a bunch of Sasquatches getting it on, and could not for the life of me go back to sleep, no matter how hard I tried.
Your eyes. It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys.
Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestall.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 241, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. Paul Bestall, my friend, congratulations on yet another conference appearance booked.
Yes, I'm delighted. I shall be going somewhere I've never been, so I will be speaking at the Parameet on October the 10th at Pendle Hill, the legendary witch case from British history. So I'm delighted to go there. So that should be fun. So that'll be a busy few weeks in October because why not?
What the hell? Throw a few more things on there.
Absolutely. Yeah. There might be one more thing popping up soon as well. So we'll see.
Well, Paul, Maybe not, because I'm going to blow your mind here in a sec. Before we tell this batch of listener stories that will make up this episode, we got some really great stuff, including a trilogy of poltergeist cases translated by our good friend Tord from their original German. Before we do that, we might not have to do it at all, because I was cruising the news the other day, and it looks like some researchers in Alberta have figured all this stuff out. We can hang up our boots. The paranormal has been explained. We can walk away from it all like Bill Bixby in The Incredible Hulk, our thumb in the wind as we wait for the next mystery to take us. Because the answer, my friend, is infrasound.
No, it's not.
Alberta.
Everybody attached to that study should be ashamed of themselves. It's bad science and they're lying. And they should be ashamed because that's wrong. That's the kind of thing that feeds into anti-vax thoughts. Because when you've got scientists lying, that gives idiots ammunition. It's disgraceful.
Now, of course, this was an article from the National Post, which is, shock. In which three researchers, Trevor Hamilton, Rodney Schmaltz, and Kyle Scatterly, they look like a divorced dad garage band, but that's neither here nor there. I'm curious because, of course, their contention is that infrasound is causing everything, go back to sleep. Yeah, and you say they're lying. It's nonsense. We know that it's nonsense, but I'm curious to know what exactly they've lied about.
Infrasound simply causes people to feel uneasy. That is the only thing it does. That is it.
I cause people to feel uneasy. Fuck, I'm paranormal too, I guess.
This report that's obviously just been published in Canada was the reason 2 weeks ago I went on that massive infrasound rant.
Oh, I see. Okay, I just assumed that was general infrasound rage, not this specific.
No. I find it quite odd that it got to us 2 weeks earlier than it did when it was actually from Canada.
Well, I mean, it's the National Post. They had to find someone who can still spell.
It's nonsense. It's rubbish. It's bullshit. Absolute nonsense. And it's high time we put these people to task. It's like that Bigfoot study the other year, where they had completely stripped out all the evidence about Bigfoot sightings and just said, somebody said they saw a Bigfoot here. It's a bear. Not that somebody saw a Bigfoot here that had picked up a log and was throwing it towards somebody, roaring. No, because that report was as bad, because that was the same thing. They took 500 Bigfoot reports and cleansed every bit of additional evidence. So it was just a Bigfoot sighting and then said, oh, everybody's seen a bear. It's atrocious. It's terrible science. Science has made so much difference, mostly positive in the world. And then you've got shithouses like this lying. It's bad science. It's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. It's not science. It's bias and using their education as a platform to look down on people. And it's not right, that. So, yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Me up.
See, we got to get Paul warmed up. We get him sufficiently angry before we get going.
Is this because I told you I'd watch the Running Man remake at the weekend? Is that what the problem is?
No, I mean, no, if I had to suffer through that, it's only fair you had to suffer through it too.
Well, I won't be making that mistake again.
No,
I'll put that in the box with the RoboCop remake.
I actually preferred the RoboCop remake. I don't know what that tells you, but I did.
Mind you, it's a low bar, in it?
And I am tap dancing my way over to a wonderful stack of listener stories, including one from a new listener who is still in the old days in the archives, but got to the Mythical Dream episode and said she wanted to send in some stuff. So we're going to be finishing with her stories. Her name is Sammy. Hello, Sammy. It's going to be a while before you get to this point in the show, I imagine, but hello for when you get here. Very, very excited. But before we can tell those stories, well, we're going to do two things. Well, both involve our patrons. The first involves a very special patron, OTR Trucker, who's been with us, whose real name is Carrie, been with us for a very long time. Carrie sent us a message, and I actually hadn't had a chance to send it to you yet, but Carrie wanted to let us know why they'd been absent for some time. They were in a very, very serious accident. A tornado picked up their semi-truck and smashed it back to the ground. Scary, scary stuff. So, Carrie, we just want you to know, man, we're grateful you're still with us. We're grateful that patronage aside, it's got nothing to do with it. We're just grateful you're still with us, man. And he is, in fact, he's back trucking, so keep on trucking, you beautiful, unstoppable bastard. And, of course, now, we'd like to thank the rest of our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do, namely rant about the quality of public education in Alberta without you. Every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys, you help make us who we are. But people who can afford to support us financially, you are the wind beneath our wings. Without you, we simply wouldn't be able to do any of this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And well, we'd like to thank every single person who supports the Ghost Story Guys financially, both on Patreon and Apple Podcasts. Right now, we'd like to thank our latest subscribers. They are
Rolly Lobsinger,
A.L. Smithy,
Anne Boleyn's Revenge,
Corey Nelson,
Melinda Storms,
and 108. Again, guys, thank you so much from the bottom of our terrible hearts. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate your support. Ads kind of help, but ads have become unreliable in the modern economy. We cannot, you can't rely on it for nothing. But patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers, you are our lifeline, and we deeply, deeply appreciate every single one of you.
Our kind of crazy bastards.
1000%. And if you would like to get access to bonus episodes, early ad-free release, extra conversations between myself and Paul, our monthly live stream, Ghost Force shoutouts, and so much more, click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. Or you can become a Cabinista on Apple Podcasts. That gets you access to most of the same stuff. Not all, I'm sad to say, but most of the same stuff. And if you do sign up on Apple Podcasts, make sure to take a screenshot of your confirmation and send it to us at ghoststoryguys@gmail.com so we can thank you here in this segment. Apple doesn't give us a list of individual subscribers, so we won't know unless you send it. Again, click the link in the show notes, head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or become a Cabinista on Apple Podcasts to get access to bonus episodes, ad-free, early release, and so much more. All right, my friend. Are you ready for another fabulous episode of Listener Stories?
I am, but I just need you to answer a question.
Hit me.
Why is the algorithm sending me great things in Toronto when you're moving there and I'm not?
I don't have an answer that doesn't sound like a cry for help.
The last 3 days, all these things happening in Toronto or locations have all been appearing on my feed, so I've just been sending them to you.
Which I deeply appreciate. One of which was, as I said, a 10-minute walk from my house, or my new place. But no, I do not know.
Listeners, what's going on?
What does the algorithm know that we don't? All right, so our first story comes from our most traveled patron, of course. You'll all know that is Big Paul D. Paul says, "Hey fellas, your traveling correspondent here again. This time I'm staying in a friend's very spooky house, with some parts dating back to the 13th century, in Lleida, Catalunya. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that greatly. His wife has just told me about the Viuda Fantasmal, ghostly widow, that is said to walk the ancient streets of the medieval part of town, which reminded me of my very first paranormal experience, and I thought I'd share it with you. I was 3 years old and very ill with gastroenteritis. My mum sat with me whilst I slept in a bed she'd made me downstairs so as not to disturb my brother and dad, with whom, along with my mum, I shared a bedroom. We lived with my grandparents in a little 2-bedroom cottage. Much of this story comes from my mum, but a lot of the details I can remember vividly. During the night, Mum got up to make me a bottle of milk, but rushed back to the room when she heard me scream. In her words, I was shouting about the funny lady who was in the room, but she put it down to fever-driven hallucinations. What I remember, though, and despite my young age, I do remember, was seeing a little old lady appear out of the shadows and move towards me. She didn't seem to walk, though. It was more that she glided towards me. She was tiny, wearing a big coat, a little hat, and a scarf over her face. She bent over me and pulled the scarf down and started to speak, but I heard no words. Over the next 3 or 4 years, I saw the funny lady often. Sometimes in the kitchen, sometimes in the living room, but most often in the bedroom, where she would stand at the foot of mine and my brother's bunk beds, always in the big coat, little hat, and the scarf over her face. Although occasionally she would pull it down and talk, but never audibly. My brother never saw her, but I did, quite often. My mom used to dread winter, as every time I saw a woman with a scarf, I used to be afraid it was a funny lady, so she used to have to distract me from any scarf-wearing women. Moving forward to the early 70s, my grandmother's sister Annie died. When my mom cleared out her flat, she brought home a box of old photos. Even by that early age, I was interested in photography. My dad did wedding photography to supplement his income for a number of years, and I used to spend hours with him processing the photos in his darkroom. So a box of photos was a joy to dig through. That was until my mom showed me a photo of my great-grandmother, Emma Shields. According to my mom, my face went white when I saw the photo. It was a funny lady who had silently spoken to me that night I was so ill and who I had seen countless times around the house. I told Mom it was a funny lady, and she started putting 2 and 2 together. She was tiny, about 4'10", always wore a coat that was much too big for her as she thought it made her look taller, wore a pillbox hat for the same reason, and during the 50s, when London suffered from periods of smog during the winter months caused by coal fires, always wore a scarf over her face when out of the house. My mum, a total disbeliever in anything paranormal, told my grandmother, who was, according to my mom, furious. She didn't get on with her mum and was angry that she made me, her beloved grandson, as frightened of her as she was in her childhood. I've always been blessed with an incredible memory, and to this day still see those images in my mind. However, family members have said that there's no way I could remember that far back and must be just recollecting stories told to me. But I disagree. I saw my great-grandmother years after her death, and that was just the start of the weirdness that has followed me around for years. So, was it a fever-driven hallucination or the apparition of my great-grandmother a decade or more after her death? And if you're interested, I've attached a photo of the funny lady who terrified me on numerous occasions. Keep doing what you do, producing great shows, calling out bigotry, supporting mental health, and standing up for the marginalized. Big Paul. Isn't it absolutely infuriating when people tell you, no, that's not what happened, you remember it wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And you know goddamn well they're wrong?
Yeah, it is infuriating. Things like that always get me really annoyed because then I get really angry. So I'm like, no, I know what happened. I was there.
This kid is prone to hallucination all of a sudden. Nothing else. Doesn't talk about anything else. Everything else is totally normal in their life. But the second something happens that doesn't quite fit how you see the world, you remember it wrong.
It's a very distinct image as well. It's not like you can misinterpret it.
No, that's it. I mean, one thing that always gets me is no matter what the hallucination is, people will say to you, no matter what your experience is, people will say to you, well, that's just what old people wore back then. They could be wearing a fucking Ronald McDonald costume and blowing a gorilla. And they'll be like, well, that's just what people did back then. Everyone looked like that. You just saw a photo of someone from back then and hallucinated Ronald McDonald puffing on Bobo. No, man, that's not what happened. You're an idiot. I saw a thing.
Yes, just because you have no interest in fashion doesn't mean I don't.
Yeah, exactly that. And Paul, I just dropped the photo that you included into the show notes so Paul here can see. And she looks like a tough lady, but she also looks like she could be fun.
Yes. Hard but fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet she partied.
In those crazy days where our pubs used to shut at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Pubs used to what?
Shut at 3 p.m.
Really?
Yeah, and then you just have to wander around for 4 hours until they reopened.
Oh, fascinating.
Unless it was an establishment that served food. And therefore you could carry on drinking all day, as long as you had something to eat of a minimal variety. Thankfully, we got rid of all that, and we've been alcoholics in Britain ever since.
I was going to say, I every time I've been there, it's changed a little bit now, but when I first started going there 20-some years ago, I remember thinking, boy, I can't keep up with these people. I like to drink. I like to drink a lot, and damn.
It's always good. It's like one of those things, you know. It's not illegal for children to drink alcohol in a pub unless they can see the bar. But these are the rules that people don't know.
Take me there. What's the rationale behind this?
I've no idea.
Oh, okay.
So as long as a child is with an adult, they can drink alcohol as long as they can't see the bar. That is the technicality. However, the legality of it is that it's enforced as a blanket ban on under 18s drinking alcohol at all. Which, if you dive into the situation, it's not. It's not there. No. I mean, to be fair, who's going to let the kid have a pint at pub these days? I mean, when we were kids growing up, they used to give you alcohol to make you fall asleep when we were kids.
Grandma's cough medicine. Yeah.
Or if you got toothache, whiskey.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Didn't take the pen away. You were just smashed.
Hey, but either way, you weren't their problem anymore.
No, you were just gurgling on the floor.
I saw this. I saw a tweet. This guy said he works in a pub and he had this kid come up to him, show him an ID, and that plainly showed that this kid was only 17 years old. He told the kid, "No, you're 17. You can't have a pint." And he goes, "Fair play. You're the first bartender I've taken this to who can do maths." And he walks off. And the guy says, half an hour later, this little motherfucker walks past me holding the pint, gives me a thumbs up, and keeps going.
I remember that. I got refused on my 18th birthday in a pub I'd been drinking in for 5 years. It was really annoying. Like, fucking hell. You were serving me when I was 13. Now I'm 18, it's a problem. Wankers.
I've mentioned this recently. Saturdays I've been going down to Reed's Records down in St. Thomas.
Yes.
Which is a fabulous record store, guys. If you're in Southern Ontario, go to Reed's Records. He's got a brilliant setup there. But I was talking to Jason, who runs the place, and he was saying that it went tailgating. I think it was down in Atlanta. Yeah, I can't remember specifically. He was doing some NFL tailgating in one of the southern states, and it was one of the places where turns out they don't sell alcohol on Sundays. So him and his buddies, apparently they don't sell alcohol on Sundays. So him and his buddies, they didn't know this. They went down with this cooler full of beer. And they were just handing it out. They said it was a real, the tailgate party was happening. It was just brilliant. Everyone's barbecuing. They're giving out beers, and people were just thrilled. Couldn't figure out why everyone was so stoked. I mean, free beer is free beer, but these people were especially excited. And when they ran out, they thought, oh, fuck it, we'll go get more. No, you won't. You are officially out of beer, and you will not have any more until tomorrow.
How strange.
Yeah, I've heard of this, like dry counties and things like that, but in some places where you can't drink unless you're a member of a club. It's such a patchwork of rules. I can't remember exactly where he told me this took place. I was going to say Atlanta, but Atlanta's such a big place. I can't imagine that being enforced there. So it might have been somewhere else.
Yeah, that is weird. I mean, just not an issue here at all. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week, Just, to be fair, it's the only thing that keeps us going these days in the world.
I was going to say. Yeah, the easy accessibility of alcohol it's like here with weed. If weed wasn't, as plentiful as it was and easy to get, we would have descended into barbarism long ago.
Yeah. Well, I know people here who think weed's legal and it isn't, but it's just so prevalent. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Major cities, it's all you can smell half at time. walking about.
Really?
Day or night. There's always people tooting. Not just me. But it's prevalent. It's like when I take dog for a walk, I'm like, woo! Somebody's cropping. Woo!
Oh man! So compare that to here when Nick first came over from England. Again, she was a cop, so she hated cannabis. And I remember we went to go see, I think it was Nelly Furtado in Vancouver. It was 2007, and we're in the kind of lower bowl, and all of a sudden she starts sniffing and goes, "Cannabis," like McGruff the crime dog. I said, "Yeah, you better get used to that shit, love. That's if you're gonna stick around. That's not going anywhere."
It's not maple syrup. It's weed.
And then 10 years later, I was driving around with a trunk full of the stuff. So, the times they were changing.
And she's got the munchies. She's on a third packet of Jaffa cakes.
Yeah, 100%. Like I've told you before, I got her into it because she had kidney pain. She had a kidney stone, and now she just keeps like an infused soda in the fridge. She's got edibles in her side table, like the 2 milligram edibles. No, she is fully on board, mind you. And I think I might have told you this. I ordered some psilocybin the other day, or a couple weeks back now, and they gave me these gummies with it. They threw in some cannabis gummies, 100 milligrams a piece. Now I can handle at most 5.
Is that if you just want to lie down for a week? Is it?
If you want to go to space and never come back.
I want to think I'm in Lord of the Rings. I'm at Helm's Deep for 3 days.
Well, do I have the sweet treat for you, my friend? Holy I actually just gave it to a friend of mine. It's like, here, you've got the tolerance.
And you haven't seen them since.
Every now and again, I see them passing overhead.
Police are looking for a man in downtown Toronto riding a moose. Believes he's Gandalf.
I always told them, dream big. Dream big.
Our next up is from Mason, who says, "Before I tell any stories, I must sing your praises. My name is Mason Joy, and I swear to God, if one of you says my name with a French accent, I'll stop listening to the show. I've heard it all before. Just kidding. My dad introduced me to the show way back in 2018 when I was 15, and we've been tuning in almost every week since then. You two have never failed to make me laugh, sucker punch me in the feels, or creep me out with the amazing stories. Hell, you two have got me through high school, pastry school, relationships, jobs, and not to mention long drives. I appreciate your art, and I can't wait for every new episode to drop. I also wanted to mention something pertaining to an episode that was released eons ago. I can't recall the title, but in it, Brennan mentioned he always wanted to get a big old slobbery dog and name him Boner.
Oh, I'd forgotten all about that. Good old Boner.
Yeah, the internet never forgets. As it happens, our cat's nickname is Boner. Sloan turned to Sloaney, which turned to Sloaner, Sloaner Boner, and now it's just Boner. And she comes when she's called. Do with that what you will. Anyways, I've never seen a ghost, at least not in the traditional sense, though I have experienced more than my fair share of oddities. Things usually stir up in our house during springtime and fall. I think these are because these are the transitory seasons. In Celtic paganism, which I choose to celebrate, spring and fall are the times when the veil is thinnest, and the creatures from the other side can cross over as they please into our realm. The fae folk come over during springtime, and the dead visitors during the course of autumn. During these times, I've recorded all the strange things I've seen. The most common instances of spookiness are grey things darting around corners in the house and out of the corner of my eye. Sometimes it looks like a human leg turning a corner, but other times it's a cat's tail and back end bounding towards the staircase. They're always the same dusty shade of grey. My dad, my mum, and my fiancée have all experienced these same things. The most prominent presence I've felt has always been at my parents' house, the house I've lived at all my life thus far. To me, the creepiest rooms in the house are the kitchen and the far side of the basement, located somewhere beneath our living room entryway. Nothing bad has ever happened in the house, so to speak. No deaths, no tragic illnesses, other than our sweet grey tabby Floyd and our huge black lab Stanley passing away due to old age some years ago. The only other things I can think of that would stir up such energy would be all the people we've had living with us over the years, our proximity to the Mississippi River, and the fact that my mum and I dabble in tarot and tassography. To begin with, I've always been drawn to the basement. You see, it's an unfinished basement. Minnesota winters and springs are just too wet, and the limestone down there is much too crumbly and leaky to do much with. It's dank, musty, cobwebby, creepy and grey, especially as we live so close to the river. It's filled with the usual basement things: washer, dryer, furnace water heater, and the circuit box. The place is absolutely crawling with spiders and centipedes too. I don't mind the spiders. The centipedes, however, the basement just feels heavy. My mum told me that when I was little, I would go down into the basement for myself for hours. Dragging my stuffed animals along, I would play and laugh and sing to them while sitting on the old cold stone floor. Not creepy at all. I'd also sing to the ghosts down there. I don't know who they are or what they are, but they seem to have been around quite a while. The air becomes a little stiff when they come by, and time seems to drag on like a snail. There's a kind of melancholy, benevolent feeling that hangs in the air downstairs. A mischievous feeling too. It freaks me out a bit when it rests on my shoulders, but I've learnt different ways to cope. I'll never forget the last time I played in the basement. I hadn't been more than 3 or 4 years old then. I remember holding my stuffed dog Nipper up to a shelf. We were looking at the layer of dust and cobwebs that had gathered, fascinated by all that had accumulated as we drew pictures in the dust. I was happy, I felt fine, and then suddenly my mood shifted. I felt a terrible sense of anger and danger. It sat on my shoulders like a weighted blanket. I remember saying out loud, "I don't want to play here anymore," and running upstairs to see my mum. And the feeling disappeared once I closed the basement door. Everything was fine then, and I was back to my usual sing-songy self. The angry feeling is still present down there, though only on rare occasions. It's also seemingly shifted now, in the way that it doesn't seem to project onto me anymore. Now, it's similar to the feeling you'd get when you'd walk into a room and you overhear people talking behind your back. Gives you that kind of, "oh shit, I've got to get out of here" feeling. Next up is the kitchen. There we have the door to the basement, the back door, the pantry, and our bathroom. And this is where most of the physical sensations happen. I'll put it bluntly, the kitchen ghost is a groper. Now this bit's going to make me laugh, and I'm warning you now. I call him Cliff. Yes, enough stories about people called Cliff here for quite a while. I'll be standing in the kitchen, baking cookies or washing dishes, when I get to the sensation of heavy hands that are resting over my shoulder blades. Upon multiple occasions, the hands then slide down to wrap around my waist, like somebody's giving me a hug from behind. The presence is masculine and awful. I'll usually freeze and immediately say something along the lines of, "Cliff, please let go. I don't like it when you touch me." And most of the time, he lets go as soon as I make it clear he's uninvited. Though he did used to hang on for up to 30 seconds at a time. Ooh. These vastly different instances make me think that there are 2 presences in the house. One is good, that's the ghost I'd sing to as a little girl, and the other is not so good, that's the fucker with the slippery hands. Oh, what a brilliant turn of phrase. The good spirit, or ghost as I call it, has a knack for strangeness. When my brother and I were young teenagers, the good ghost would make several laps up and down the staircase outside of our bedrooms. It had a different step pattern than everyone else in the house. It was slow and measured, creaking up the steps and down again about 3 or 5 times. It always stopped just outside of our doors, which we'd kept open for air circulation. I never saw what it looked like, but I know it wasn't any living creature in the house. Stan and Floyd would be fast asleep on my bed, and since the door was perpetually open, I would see and hear if anyone else left their rooms. And this only ever happened when everyone in the house went to bed and shut off the lights. In addition to the creaking steps, the damn ghost would also rearrange our dining room chairs. We used to have 4 heavy metal and vinyl dining chairs that sat around the dinner table. They had to weigh somewhere between 15 to 20 pounds. When you'd pull them away from the table, Their little metal feet would kind of skitter against the floor and make this horrible groaning sound. We put little furniture pads on every chair leg to remedy this, but all it did was dampen it slightly, like muting a trumpet. Every night, without fail, the chairs would be pulled from their proper spots at the table and turned to slight angles. I tried to fool myself that it was the cat jumping down from the chairs, and the force of his jump would push the chairs across the floor. Floyd was a big cat, but not that big. And it was only also happen when everyone was upstairs, along with the cat and dog that were laying on my bed and hogging the pillows. I asked my mum about these experiences recently, and my brother confronted her too. We asked why the chairs would move and the stairs creak like they did when we were younger. After years of denying us, she said, and I quote, "Oh yeah, all that stuff totally happened because of ghost. Your dad and I just didn't want to scare you. Girl, when I was younger, I tried to rationalise these experiences. Oh, you watch too many horror movies, you know too many ghost stories, it's your anxiety, you're not getting enough sleep and so on. However, I've learned over time that life is in itself irrational and that nothing is black and white. I find it comforting in a way. I'm glad that I won't be able to know or understand absolutely everything in the universe. It makes things fun and it piques my curiosity almost every day. Thank you both and the entire GSG team for all that you do and represent. I've been a fan since childhood and I plan to continue my parasocial relationship with my favourite internet uncles. Take care and keep smiling. PPS, I've just rented Sasquatch Sunset from my local library and my fiancé is going in blind. Wish him luck. I wish you both luck."
Well, yeah, let us know if he's still your fiance after this, Mason, because, oh man, Sasquatch Sunset. I'll never forget passing out. I was the only person in the theater. I fell asleep, woke up to a bunch of Sasquatches getting it on, and could not for the life of me go back to sleep, no matter how hard I tried. I tried hitting myself in the head repeatedly to think if I could introduce some kind of trance-like state. Nothing.
Yeah, I've still not watched it.
I don't think that we need to change that, frankly. I think that's probably good, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, amazing, fascinating stories. I mean, the groping ghost, oh, Jesus. I think that's the first I've heard of that, actually.
Mucky Cliff.
Mucky Cliff. Yeah, no, Lechy ghosts is not a thing I often hear about, which is, I guess, for the best.
I mean, obviously, the most famous Lechy ghost is obviously the Entity case, which is like Lechy on a completely different level. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, that's top tier.
That's top tier. Creepy, scary horribleness.
The one that I identified with most was the one in the basement, which is awesome considering I'm moving into a basement here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But the way the air just changed, the way it just all of a sudden, I don't think I should be here anymore. And if you have felt that, it is a hard feeling to shake. Speaking of haunted kids, I was chatting to someone over the weekend. Sadly, I can't say who. This is gonna make sense. I promise.
That's a brilliant segue. Talking of haunted kids.
Speaking of haunted kids,
I did an exorcism the other day.
Yeah. Did I not tell you? No, I ran into someone, and again, I can't say who it is, but they just apropos of nothing. We've spoken a number of times, me and this guy, but we just never kind of gotten into it. It was all been very surface level conversation. And then it was Sunday. We just bumped into each other and we ended up talking for quite a while. And he finally said, "Hey, I don't necessarily believe in ghosts and shit, but I'm kind of curious to get your take on this." And he shared with me a bunch of clips from his security cameras. And now some of it is just orbs. It's just dust. But some of it doesn't make any fucking sense. And one of them was a clip from his kid's bedroom. This was when the child was an infant. So his wife is in the bed with the kid. Like she's lying next to him, like kind of getting to go to sleep. So when you see a phone kind of just like hanging over the edge, she's obviously like looking at her phone. But the door opens. There's no one there. And there's this line of distortion that moves across the camera before disappearing. Yeah, it's really odd.
Infrasound.
You know, and there we go. I should have thought of that. There was an air conditioner running nearby, and infrasounded the shit out of it. But yeah, it was
Wow.
really interesting stuff. Yeah, and then he showed me a couple others, and now some of them again, dust. You know, orbs are generally dust, right?
Spirits of the dead. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. But this was, I don't know, this was a motion sensor camera set to its least sensitive setting. And it's in the corner of a very, very high ceiling. I would say like 10 feet up. And between 1 and 3 in the morning, this camera has been alerting with these things that look like clusters of lights, which again, they could be flies. It's possible. They don't look like flies on the camera, but obviously I want to try and come up with prosaic explanations before we jump to the fantastical. But they're bright in the sort of whatever you call the kind of night vision of the camera, but they move in unison. They don't have the sort of chaotic movement of a cluster of, say, flies. They kind of move in unison, sort of pulsing. In pulsing in formation, I guess is what I mean. And they sort of swarm back and forth across the camera and then move off. And again, I unfortunately I wasn't able to get the clips. I tried, but that one was strange enough to me that I was willing to consider it to be something other than just insects. It was odd. And the place that this camera is situated, typically insects are not an issue. You know, this is not a place that has a lot of bugs. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything like that before. And again, coming from someone who doesn't really believe, I thought it's worth entertaining.
Intriguing.
Yeah. Actually, another piece of footage I saw was Soraya shared it in the Where Did the Road Go Slack. It's a porch camera, and basically it looks like a sizzling light comes from the right and appears to move towards the lens, but then fizzes out. And it doesn't look like AI, because it's not, because I've seen a lot of AI Ring camera clips.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like that. It looks like just like an actual camera video, because it's not properly centered. The quality's not great. It's just odd. It's just very odd. So it's been sort of a time for anomalous video. But of course, I mean, the downside is all this AI shit. You can't say anything for certain anymore. You can't be like, oh, that's definitely X, because who fucking knows?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult, and AI is certainly adding to the hoaxer's toolbox, as it were. But yeah, it is nice, and I suppose it's quite refreshing to get something that's just a bit strange, rather than, I mean, often sometimes you see clips and it's too good to be true, and you think,
oh yeah,
I think, hang on a minute, I think you've got the greatest evidence ever, and then you think, have you? No, you haven't, have you? You've tricked us, you cheeky monkey.
Well, that's the thing, right? And we've talked about this 100 times, in that it kind of doesn't matter what you get on video, no one's going to believe you. So I've given up on video evidence, which of course now is when I have people come to me, people who I generally trust, with things that don't make sense. And again, don't seem faked, because they're not interesting enough to be fakes, but they're also too compelling to go, yeah, that's dust. Again, some of them were very clearly just, orbs. Yeah. But others, it was something else, especially the line of distortion.
Yes.
Looking like someone was entering the room. That was very odd.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of clips like that over the years. There's a very famous one from over here, which essentially looks like a procession of cavalry coming through a French door at night on camera.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's all very wispy. And this is from about 10, 12 years ago. It's quite an old clip now. That's an odd one, because it literally looks like it starts snowing in the room first. There's like loads of like dust appears, and then all these sort of wispy images cross, and then they just disappear. So that's always one that's intrigued me. There's been a couple. This is a very famous one of a weird thing that appears in a pub at 4:30 in the morning, which is quite odd. So I mean, it might be a very clever hoax, but once again, it was quite old.
Yeah.
And obviously, the older the clip, the easier it is to dive into the metadata and work out if it's been manipulated to a certain degree, and to add things to it. So yeah, as with anything, you've just got to be critical, and look at the evidence and look at the the possibilities rather than saying, oh, well, this is a bit odd, it must be a ghost, rather than, well, let's look at everything else first. I mean, you know, it's good to be a believer, but you can't be so open-minded that your brain falls out of your ears every time. You know, you've got to have a bit of critical thinking, which is another thing that seems to be sorely lacking in the world these days.
Well, yeah. Actually, you posted that article by Luke Phillips about the problem with the modern paranormal marketplace.
Yes.
You posted that to Facebook, and that was great shit, folks. If I remember, I will link it in the show notes. Luke, of course, author of Rogue. He was on this show a couple years ago. Luke's a really smart guy, really great guy too. A lot of fun to chat to.
Yeah, lovely man.
And yeah. And I think he nails it. He nails that. Basically, what's selling right now is demons. And if you're not talking about demons and the Nephilim and all that, you'll excuse me, fucking garbage, then it's very hard to get attention, because right now that is where people are at.
I don't care. I don't want that attention.
No, 100%. No, there's a reason we don't talk about that shit on this show, right? Like, I would rather have the a small group of people listening to me who I actually respect, as opposed to an audience full of folks that I have to grift.
Prime example of this, of things that are absolutely, you think, why on earth have you said this in public, and why on earth has anybody published it? Was obviously these UAP files that were released by the Pentagon the other week. That, for anybody interested in ufology, most of this stuff's been out there for ages anyway. We all know it's nothing that's gone, oh my God. Most people have seen most of the stuff that's been released as like exclusive. But one pastor said, oh, they're not UFOs, they're falling angels. And I just thought, what? What's he talking about? Which angel? Is it the angel that you've created in the image of a white person? Or is it the biblical angel with tentacles coming out of its arse and one giant eye? Which one is it, mate? which angel is it? Because angels as they are now are not the angels in the Bible. Oh, I'm sorry, you've probably not read it because you're evangelical.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And that's always a great question. Have you read the Bible? And when they go, yeah, but not for a while, that usually means no. No, I have not.
Well, it's like that brilliant clip that's out there where somebody's walking down the street with a God is pro-life banner, and this guy just walks up to him and said, didn't God kill everybody on earth apart from Noah and his family? Did he not order one of the kings to kill all babies, all male babies? And he just went, I'm sorry, and walked off like his mind had been blown. Like,
well, he may as well have shouted cognitive dissonance like he was doing a Hadouken. Like it amounts to the same thing.
Yeah, but it was 3,000 years ago. It don't count.
The statute of limitations has run out on the
he had
the
to do it because
side.
they're all the aliens building pyramids. It's fucked off with them.
Oh God. Well. Oh Lord.
Indeed.
Yes. Well, thank you, Mason, so much for your story. And
you.
genuinely, it's an honor to have been part of your life. I choked up when I read your message and found out that it was your dad who had introduced you to our show. That is, that's really something.
Yeah, we're at that point now, aren't we?
I know.
Listeners who could be grandkids. Well, I could. Not you, not yet, unless you come from a very rough estate.
I'm not that Italian.
But yeah, that's it. Deeply touching. We've got generational addict.
Yeah.
Mind you, it happened at Paramede, didn't we? When somebody came in the door to us with us, and she listened to the show. And she was 9.
Yeah. Oh man, well that's chilling all on its own. But I hope you're still listening. Hello.
Yes, hello there.
And I'm sorry for many of the things I've said over the years.
And I'm sorry for him too.
Well, while I go say a couple rosaries and a novena to beg God for forgiveness, we're going to take a quick break for some ads.
Phew.
Next up, we have a Finnish ghost story from Katrina. Hey guys, I enjoyed your latest installation of Reader Mail and recently discovered the podcast Tell Me a Ghost Story and was happy to hear a familiar voice. Brennan, you were telling your story of your experience in Victoria, which I heard on your podcast a while back. I felt like I was part of the community, like, oh yeah, I know this story. I also just listened to Paul's latest podcast of Mysteries and Monsters, episode 404 on Sami mythology. This was a fun listen. I'm half Finnish and really enjoyed listening to Nina's accent. So familiar to me since I grew up in a Finnish-American rich community in New England. I volunteer at a Finnish American Heritage Center Museum and Archives as a docent, display content developer, and all-around fix-it person. Several of my grandparents' items are in the museum, as well as a few photos on an interpretive panel. So this brings me to my ghost story. Over the years, while alone in the 100-year-old historic building, I have often felt like I was being watched. Other members have said this as well, so I felt a little better knowing I wasn't creeping myself out. A few years back, I ran into a couple who were part-time paranormal investigators at a community event. They really got excited when I revealed that I was a volunteer and member at the hall, and I could get them in the building to check it out. The woman told me that she drives past the building daily and feels something every time. So we met up there a few months later, and they brought a friend who was a psychic, which I was skeptical of, but hey, this was going to be fun anyways. She came in cold, knowing nothing of us. She approached me and asked if I knew of any violence happening at the hall. I said I did not. She said she was getting a feeling that someone really wants her to know that their wrist or arm hurts, and they won't leave her alone about it, gesturing with crossed wrists. I said I'd give it some thought, and she went on her way exploring the rest of the hall. My two sisters and I were talking about our mother, who was amused that her daughters were going on a ghost hunt. She is a staunch non-believer. To quote her, "When you're dead, you're dead." We were holding a spirit box during this. I know, another bullshit gimmick piece of equipment, I thought. But right then, as we were talking about our mother, the box said, Jackie. Our mother's name. Super creepy. A little later, I remembered that when I was 15 and my best friend's grandfather, who had been chief of police in our area, told me a story when my probably very drunk grandfather brought my grandmother into the station late one night. Both Finnish immigrants who came here in the early 20s and who I never met. Her wrists were tied up. He dragged her in saying, take her, she's crazy. Jesus Christ, sounds like he was a crazy one, right? Trust me, Fred was a kind person, and he seemed to be thinking long and hard while trying to decide if I was ready to hear such a story. Being rural Connecticut in the 1940s, I'm pretty sure they just sent them back home together after this shit show, but I will never know, because being 15, I never even thought to ask him how they handled the situation. A big regret of mine, looking back. So anyway, I found the psychic and told her what I remembered, and she said yes, she follows you, she wants you to know that was all true. I used to think that I'd really missed out, never knowing these two. They died young and way before I was born. But looking at this situation, which I am sure was not an isolated incident, as a mature person, I'm sure me and my siblings dodged a bullet, and the only thing we missed out on was a boatload of family drama. Throughout the night, there were other fun and creepy happenings, the last one being super crazy. My sisters and I were again holding the spirit box, talking about a fun night we had, when the box quickly said in succession, "Small boy limp." Now, to anyone else, this would be gibberish, but to us, this was everything. Our father, the only child of our troubled grandparents, had contracted polio as a toddler and suffered with a shortened and malformed leg his entire life. No one else in that hall knew of this detail. It was undeniable. We couldn't believe our ears. But still, our sassy and skeptical French-Canadian descended mother was not swayed that it was all bullshit. She's something else. Anyway, thank you for all that you guys do. Knowing you both are on the side of the non-crazy Americans and sympathize with their desperate situation here. Keep up the great work. I look forward to every new episode. So thank you, Katrina. Coincidentally, I actually got to experiment with with a ghost box on Sunday. We couldn't get anything out of it, but what I thought was interesting is we took it to there was a fellow who showed me the security camera footage. I ended up going back with him, and he has a ghost box that he was fooling around with. Because again, he's like, I don't believe this shit, but then he saw the footage and he thought, okay, maybe there's something here. I want to try one of these things. And of course, he doesn't know enough about our field to know those things are kind of, Yep. But anyways, so he said he used it, and he asked, how many of you are there here? And it said 1. And so he's like, do you want to give it a shot? And of course, I have only really used them a handful of times. I thought, fuck it, yeah, let's do it. But as soon as he turned it on, I got this feeling like it wasn't going to work. Something told me that for whatever reason, this was not going to happen. And we stood there for about 15 minutes trying to get anything out of this thing. And it wouldn't even find a radio station. It was just static. And then just as we were giving up, we started to get noise, but it never connected. And again, the feeling I just got was, it's just for whatever, this is not happening right now. I don't know if it was the wrong time, or maybe I wasn't meant to be there. I don't know. But it was just, it did not work. I remember someone told me I don't remember who it was, but someone told me that paranormally I am unusual because I don't have a spirit guide. They said that that's, for whatever reason, there's supposed to be like someone here, and I don't have someone here. So I don't know. I'm like the cursed child or something. I don't know.
I have never heard that in my life.
No, and this person said that they said the same thing. They said they had never encountered someone, but they said for some reason you don't have like someone over watching over you. They didn't even have an explanation. I shouldn't even say it wasn't like anything. They didn't have an explanation. They were just like, I don't know what to tell you.
It might be down to that accidental exorcism.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
Cleansed you and you've got a barrier around you.
Maybe, yeah.
And a tablet you can take to get your paranormal wood back, as it were.
We think all the mushrooms I've eaten would have done that by now. Did you see the article about the Waymos in Atlanta?
No.
Atlanta suburb haunted by a group of Waymos circling their neighborhood for weeks. And of course, Waymos are these autonomous cabs. While you might think of Tesla when leading the charge when it comes to autonomous vehicles, it's actually Google that has been dominating the space with its Waymo self-driving taxi service. As reported by WSB-TV, one neighborhood in northwest Atlanta was faced with an unnerving and almost spooky incident across the last few weeks, as dozens of completely empty Waymo cars have been cruising around the streets without stopping. They might not be presenting any danger outside of their ominous presence in otherwise peaceful neighborhoods, but residents are rightfully concerned and want the issue to be resolved. One resident interviewed by the local station revealed that there were around 50 cars driving up and down the street outside her house between the hours of 6 and 7 in the morning. They're moving in herds. You want a Johnny cab, this is what you get.
Oh, this is like that giant pack of wolves that ended up surrounding that town in Russia about 15 years ago, isn't it? The largest wolf pack ever recorded. I think there was nearly 400 of them.
Oh my God.
And they were just there, just circling this town.
Verkhoyansk, population 1,300. That's fucked up. When you have a third as many wolves as you have people, you are in trouble.
Yeah.
More than 30 horses were killed in just 4 days. That is scary as shit.
Yeah, it's one of them. Nobody knows why it happened, and nobody really knows why they went away.
It's just one of the wolves clinking bottles together. Warriors.
Can you dig it?
If you laughed at that, your back hurts.
Well, I was reading, strangely enough, I know there's a bit of an investigation here in England, because apparently a lot of crows seem to have lost their ability to communicate. So scientists are looking into the cause.
Oh, walked right into that one. Well, Katrina, I'm going to go and see if I can ever look at myself in the mirror again for falling for that. But while I do, I want to say thank you. And, oh, Lord. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you. A 12-year-old told me that joke.
That kid rules.
Three poltergeists from Toad. I'd like to submit 3 very old poltergeist cases for consideration on the Ghost Story Guys. These cases date back to the 17th and 18th centuries and were later compiled in the 19th century by Dr. Richard Vedel from historical sources. What makes these accounts particularly interesting is how closely they resemble modern descriptions of the poltergeist phenomena, despite their age. They include the classic elements such as unexplained stone throwing, disturbances centred around specific individuals, and the notable lack of serious injury, despite repeated physical impacts. I've translated the material into English, whilst keeping it as close to the original sources as possible, without embellishment or added interpretation. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in covering, I'd be happy to provide the full text. The author's concluding theoretical reflections have been deliberately omitted here, as they offer little additional insight from a modern perspective and are largely shaped by the speculative assumptions of the time. And these are called 3 Ghost Stories from Earlier Times by Dr. Richard Vedel in Karlsruhe. In the year 1714 there appeared, published by Andres Furman in Leipzig and Osnabrück, Florian Bertram Gertzmann's exact and truthful account of the apparition and tormenting spirit in which the imperial and free city of Dortmund of the Holy Roman Empire, and specifically in the house of his father, Dr. Berthold Florian Gerstmann, carry out many wondrous disturbances and damages for a period of 4 weeks less 3 days, together with annotations and theological consideration brought to print. The author essentially presented his diary, which he kept during the events, and his father, the physician and apothecary Dr. Berthold Florian Gerstmann, who was apparently a devout Lutheran, accompanies it with annotations in which, according to the customary style of the time, he alternately polemicizes against personal enemies and indulges in theological reflections of all kinds. Oh, I do love the English language from the 19th century. The facts of this rather extensive, indeed verbose, and yet not very clear report are, in brief, as follows. On May the 5th, 1713, at 8 o'clock in the morning, a window of the laboratory was shattered by a stone without the perpetrator being discovered. While people were still searching for him, further stone throwing occurred, by which, in the course of the day, a total of 7 panes and 4 roof tiles were destroyed. By 7 o'clock in the evening, the disturbances had ceased, remaining quiet throughout the night. Indeed, all of the events were only confined to the daytime hours. From the 6th to the 9th of May, the disturbances increased more and more, so that in these first 5 days, more than 200 throws were counted and 75 panes were broken. The inhabitants of the house were also struck, but, as is almost always in such phenomena, without injury. It particularly struck the narrator that when he was in the garden arbour and was harassed there by the projectiles, the branches were in no way touched by them. The stones were always seen shortly before reaching their target, so it became impossible to determine their trajectory. On the 6th day, which was the 10th, the mischief began in the closed laboratory. It was mostly directed at the glass apparatus. If these were not quickly removed, they were destroyed. From time to time, a pane was also shattered. Furthermore, the well-known phenomena occurred that the projectiles remained stuck in the walls of the objects they penetrated, which indicated a clear sudden loss of driving force. In the study of the narrator, located in the adjoining building where some of the apparatus had been stored, all kinds of hard objects flew in through the closed windows, so that everything fragile had to be secured in boxes. The stove in the laboratory received a hole in the presence of family members, but not through throwing. The younger son, who is presumably the medium, claimed to see a shadowy figure breaking out the pieces. Chandeliers moved without visible cause. Clothing, yarn, and various household items were later found hidden inside a hazel bush in the garden. Gradually, the strength of the unseen thrower began to increase. He now used jugs and other heavy objects as projectiles. Paper, left in the laboratory, which was the main site of the disturbance, was scratched. Apports occurred into and out of close spaces. After 15 days of causing considerable annoyance and damage, the haunting took an outright obscene character. With the contents of the privy, all kinds of objects, even clothes being worn,
gross,
were soiled without the person noticing it, and objects of all kinds were repeatedly thrust into the filth. When the privy was nailed shut, it was broken open again several times with a loud noise. Blimey! Brilliant. Those Brits in this toilet humour, eh? The narrator observed how a door of the laboratory opened without visible cause, and after he had closed it and waited, it opened again, whereupon soiled objects were brought in through it. Again, the younger brother believed that he'd seen a white shadow. After this phase, lasting 5 days, the peak of the disturbance seemed to be over. At least throwing with filth ceased. In the following 2 days, various tricks were still played and things damaged, but the force clearly diminished. Then followed 3 days of rest, after which there was a small 3-day after effect. As at the beginning, panes were beginning to be destroyed again, through less by throwing than by blows. The younger brother once believed he saw a red arm that shattered one. His coat was also torn on his body without his noticing it. On the last day, the spirit poured and splashed much water. Finally, it was again the boy who believed he saw a shadow in the garden house, and at the same time a voice was heard calling several times, "Decisions! Decisions!" And just as abruptly as it had begun, the activity ceased.
The second case is from Kabsdorf. Magister Andreas Gunther, an evangelical pastor in Kabsdorf in Upper Hungary, later driven out during the persecutions of Protestants, relates that during the harvest time of the year 1666, one night the servants who were sleeping in the loft were disturbed by throwing and by pulling at their hair. At first, the people fell into dispute among themselves. Then, when no culprit could be found, they left their sleeping place and awaited the morning in the open air. At first, the disturbance manifested itself only during the darkness through throwing, banging, and rumbling. Later, however, also during the day. The pavement in the courtyard was torn up, the door of the room was forced open by stones, the walls were soiled by eggs being— "This is some mucky bastards." Were soiled by eggs being thrown against them, food was scattered from the pans onto the ground, heavy objects such as plow wheels fell down beside the tables, stones with which those present were harassed flew out through the window, lights were thrown down and extinguished. In short, the inhabitants of the house had not a moment's rest. On one particular night, the disturbance was especially violent. The light was extinguished twice by throws, and afterwards blown forcefully open. Under such torments, 3 months passed, July, August, and September, during which the disturbance continued with only slight interruptions. After that, it disappeared again. The pastor assumes that it had been bewitched into his house by 2 Capuchins, with whom he'd had a theological dispute at a gathering. I know he means Capuchin monks, but I'm imagining Capuchin monkeys.
You never know in those days, mate. Anything wasn't off the table.
Yeah, very true. One might easily suppose that these men had produced the disturbance in a natural way, which, given the agitation of feeling against Protestants, would have been quite conceivable. Nevertheless, such typical haunting phenomena are described that a mere trick seems highly improbable. Above all, it is again the gentle nature of the blows when objects were thrown. Gunther says, "Thus, once his wife was struck by a mortar of 14 pounds, which is still among my household goods, and was touched somewhat on the side, yet no harm was done to her. A small earthen bowl struck her on the eye without injury, God be praised, and broke. He also himself experienced it. Whereupon it threw a stove tile at my feet, yet without pain or injury. The most remarkable thing in this condition was that it did not cause significant harm to me, my wife and children, nor to other pious Christians. One often felt the blows quite clearly, and at times even drops of blood fell from the place struck. At other times it was gentler. We were many times struck with large stones and other dangerous things. It was as if one were struck with a sponge. Such restraint could hardly have been observed by the Capuchins if, in the name of the devil, they had wished to inflict harm upon the hated Protestant. And although the pastor rather quickly came to suspect a haunting, and therefore was presumably not among the skeptics, it is nevertheless unlikely that a human trickster could have remained undiscovered by others over such a long period." I'm really curious, have you heard of that before, where people have been struck by heavy objects but not hurt in any way?
Yeah, it happens in numerous poltergeist cases.
Really?
Yep.
Now, I know that, there are people who claim the paranormal, whatever. There are rational explanations for things like poltergeist experiences, but how do you explain something like that? Because that seems to defy basic physics. Yeah,
absolutely. It's one of the strange aspects. It doesn't happen in all of them, but the ones where you've got a lot of throwing going on, in a considerable number of those cases, people will claim to have been struck by objects that, at the velocity they were travelling, they would cause serious injury, and yet they do not. I mean, ironically, probably one of the most innocuous objects that was thrown about was a piece of Lego during the Enfield haunting that struck the cameraman in the face and cut his eyebrow open.
Oh, Jesus.
So you've got to think, how hard can you throw a piece of Lego to cut somebody's eye open?
Yeah, that's a piece of work. Just the size of it would be, it just seems, I don't know, like it's too light?
Yeah,
One would think to be thrown like that?
Exactly. Or if it hit you in a specific place, I mean, I'm sure most people in their life have thrown a piece of Lego angry, I can't do this bloody thing, It is peculiar, but yeah, there's absolutely tons. I would say in cases where you've got things being wanged about, I would say in probably 75% of them, people will have been hit by objects that should have hurt them and didn't.
I'll be damned. I had never heard of that before this.
The problem is, the big cases, that doesn't happen. So it's not something that occurs in Enfield. It's certainly not something... I think there's a bit of it goes on in the Monk of Pontefract. Yeah, there's a fair few. I mean, obviously the strangest one was the... I'm trying to think the name of the street now. In Birmingham, I've mentioned it before, where all these houses were getting the windows smashed night after night by massive pebbles being thrown through them. Not one single member of that community was injured by stone throwing.
How strange.
And people were in the rooms when the windows were hit and stuff. Nobody was injured at all, which is even stranger. Because if you're hoaxing, the chances, because it went on for like 4 or 5 years and affected
4 or 5 years?
Yeah, and they never solved it. They never worked out what was happening. They even had police hiding in gardens and in sheds and just wandering about. Never caught anybody. Ever.
Fascinating.
And at no point was anybody injured at all. And you're talking, I mean, if you go on, you can see the footage. I mean, you're talking about pebbles, ornamental pebbles that are about the size of my hand. You know, they're big. If they hit you, if they hit you in the wrong place, they'd kill you. You know, if they hit you in the temple, you're a goner. Thornton Road, that's it. Thornton Road, Birmingham, 70s. And the chief of police is really annoyed because in the time he'd been investigating, they'd solved 6 murders with no evidence. Mind you, back in those days, I don't think they needed it. So it's not really something he should be bragging about, really, in 50 years.
Yeah.
Policing's a bit different now.
Christ, I hope so.
Well, it is if you don't work for the Met. Anyway, move on.
Moving on, yes. The third case.
In Schwarzbach, a village about half an hour from Lenthendorf, a candidate, Magister Friedrich Christian Schilling, had taken over the duties of the local pastor during his illness and continued after his death, since he had been promised the parish. Because the widow of his predecessor felt too unwell to manage the household, he brought his brother and 2 sisters to live with him. In addition, there was a 15-year-old maid in the house. At the beginning of July 1749, the inhabitants were disturbed during their evening prayers by knocking at the window, which they attributed to some prank, although no one could be seen and the window could only be reached by climbing a high fence, whilst a vicious chained dog was nearby. On the 15th, the sisters and the maid were working in the meadow when they were again disturbed, this time by stone throwing. Still believing it to be a prank, they searched the surrounding bushes but found nothing. As the matter became too troublesome, they returned home but were continuously followed by stones along the way, without any visible perpetrator. They also noted that they never saw the stones until they fell, and could only infer their origin from where they rolled. Upon returning home, a stone fell upon the table during supper, although the doors and windows were closed. At the same time, the maid in the stable and even the chained dog were struck. The next day, the candidate accompanied the women and observed them whilst they worked. Soon he perceived that a number of stones fell beside and beneath his sisters. Some appeared to have been thrown with great force, and yet others fell gently, as if simply dropped from someone's hand. Yet he could not determine where they came from, as he never saw one flying through the air. The throwing continued even when they sought shelter under a tree. It seemed as though the stones were raining down from the branches, and upon returning home, the disturbances continued, and even in a closed room the maid was struck by stones whilst under direct observation. At first, the suspicion fell upon the maid, but this proved untenable, as the phenomena also occurred when she was elsewhere. Initially, the disturbances were harmless, but this later changed. Fleischer himself came to observe the events and found it remarkable that objects appeared in closed rooms. He considered the possible explanations, even speculating about dematerialization and rematerialization, but ultimately concluded that the devil must be responsible.
Oh, for Christ's sakes.
Even 300 years ago, they were still rolling that out. The disturbances increased in intensity. Stones fell in different parts of the house simultaneously. At first, the phenomena was associated mainly with the maid. Later, the older sister became the primary target. The men and the widow were largely spared. Initially limited to daytime, the disturbances soon extended into the night, and the affected women had to protect themselves with hats while sleeping. After the older sister expressed relief that she had at least undisturbed a night, the disturbances then began to affect her as well. Careful what you wish for, I suppose. Fleischer himself witnessed these occurrences and noted especially the phenomena in closed rooms. After about a month, new manifestations appeared. One evening, those present heard a sound described as beautiful whistling, such as no nightingale could produce. The older sister, who had temporarily left the house, was forced to return because the younger was now so tormented, and the disturbances then intensified further. The women were now struck with blows that could be clearly heard. Laundry was torn down and thrown together, and the throwing of stones continued. Even outside the house, in the village and on open fields, the disturbances followed them, and only in other houses were they free. Anger or scolding seemed to increase the intensity, and a particular notable event occurred. One morning, the widow saw the candidate enter her room looking distressed. When she called to him, he did not respond and closed the door. Shortly afterwards, he actually entered, explaining that he had just risen from bed. This leaves several possibilities. Either the woman experienced a hallucination, or the candidate acted as a medium, possibly in a somnambulistic state, or a kind of double appeared. Finally, a tailor who was called to the house was seriously injured by a thrown stone, and after this, the disturbances gradually diminished until they ceased entirely.
So here's another thing I did not realize was part of poltergeist activity, or maybe it's not and this is anomalous, but the appearance of a double.
That's odd.
That is odd, eh?
Yeah, because technically that would be a voyager, wouldn't it?
No, because the voyager specifically is arriving home before you arrive home.
Well, he did, didn't he? He walked into her bedroom before he got up. So technically he arrived.
I guess technically, yeah.
I'm being tenuous with it. I'm hanging on to that. All right.
Okay, we'll let it slide. Yeah. The judges are allowing it. They're nodding.
There have been occasional cases where people have seen other people who live there and it's not them, but they're not common. They are very rare, but it has happened. But that's, I mean, these are the things. You look at these three cases that we've gone through there, they are all archetype poltergeist phenomena that here we are 300 years later, these kind of things are still being reported. So are you telling me that people were hoaxing 300 years ago in rural Germany in deeply religious times where that kind of thing could get you killed?
It does seem weird.
Infrasound.
We've solved it. Got him.
But yeah, it's rare that you'll get a poltergeist that follows people out of a building. That doesn't happen often. You tend to, it's very localised. It's usually inside. Like I say, that's why the Thornton Road one stands out, because it's something coming from external to the properties. Humpty Doo in Australia is a prime example of one of those where it would follow them in and outside the property. I mean, Enfield, when Janet went for psychiatric assessment, nothing happened. She was in the hospital for 6 weeks. Nothing happened. Stuff was still happening at home. This is what skeptics don't like to mention this point. Things were still happening at home, but while she was being evaluated in this hospital for potential brain injury, stroke, any kind of sort of malaise that was affecting her cognitive reasoning, nothing happened while she was there in the hospital. But it was still, it wasn't to the same extent, but it was still trickling along. It didn't stop. So how can it carry on when she's not there? Please.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's one of those aspects. When you say, "Oh, okay, hell."
That's another tornado alert. We can ignore that.
So there you are. You see, these are three cases from Germany from the 17th and 18th centuries, which you could simply, you would update, change the names, whatever, put them in different parts of the world. They're cases that have happened in the last 100 years. It's exactly the same thing. You've got a port, stone throwing. I mean, dirty protests. That doesn't happen often, but there have been poltergeist cases where the flinging of bodily fluids or the emptying of toilet has been. I'm trying to think there was a poltergeist case where something kept weeing on the floor. There was like puddles of urine being left everywhere. And other ones where poo's been smeared all over walls and stuff. I mean, fascinating. Thank you very much, Todd. I love stuff like that because, as I say, it proves that this phenomenon has been going on for centuries. And because they're so well recorded, you can look at them and go, well, that sounds like this case these days. That sounds like that case. The same things are happening.
That's exactly it. Yeah. It says a lot about the true nature of this stuff, that it is consistent down through the years. Tord, again, thank you so much. And folks, so you can appreciate what Tord has done for us, These are German language cases. These are things that would be unavailable to us if not for Tord translating them. So Tord, again, hats off to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Greatly appreciated, and thank you for the time and trouble to do that for us. Love it.
Absolutely.
Danke.
Danke indeed. Just before we move on to the last story, I watched the film The Hill in the Hole last night. It's a paranormal horror film made by Chris Ernst. He does a little bit of the sort of the doppelganger thing. There's a quick doppelganger scene in the basement of a library. And the rest of the film, it's good. It's moody. Some of the acting is a little rough, but the cinematography is bang on. And again, it looks creepy. But that moment in the basement, the doppelganger thing, it really creeped me out. And the film itself just, I think maybe because Chris knows so much. Chris is, I should mention, Chris Ernst is also a regular guest on Where Did the Road Go? And a film professor to boot. And so he knows the paranormal. And so it vibrates with this very, very unusual paranormal energy. And there was one moment where I was watching it and I thought, boy, this all looks very familiar. And I was thinking, why is that? That's odd. And then I noticed this one street corner and I thought, no, I've been here. And I realized it's Raton, New Mexico. And I texted Chris. I said, is this Raton? And he's like, yeah. And I've been there. I've been to that small town in New Mexico. It was like almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
But I have been in some of, it was a bizarre thing to kind of go, oh, it's a bizarre thing to recognize. All right. Well, my phone keeps buzzing with tornado alerts. So we're going to take a quick minute to make sure I'm not going to get blown off the face of this earth. I think I'm fine. This is usually the outlying areas this is more for than anything. But while I make sure that I'm not about to go meet Auntie M, we are going to take a quick break for some ads. Finally, our last story for tonight comes from Sammy. Growing up, I think I was a pretty sensitive and intuitive kid. I'm not sure if that was entirely just a product of being a latchkey kid and being cautious, or something innate, maybe both. Growing up for a time with my mom, we had a ghost in our house. My mom, who was super open-minded, and I nicknamed him Henry. So whenever we heard something unusual and unexplained, we would say, oh, it's just Henry. If something would go missing from its rightful place and then usually turn back up in the same place, it was Henry. There were a few times we had to ask Henry to give something back, but he usually did. I can't recall ever being afraid of Henry. He may have been mischievous, but never malevolent. We never experienced a full-body apparition, but there were occasional corner-of-your-eye, think-you-see-something kind of things. Also on the note of being a kid, I'm not sure when it started, but for as long as I can remember, I have needed something on to sleep. Whether it be a TV or a radio, but it has to be one of those or I can't sleep. That is still true in my adulthood. Otherwise, the dark feels oppressive and any noise, explainable or not, will feel sinister. I don't have a trauma or core memory to explain that. It's just been a fact since I was very young. Also, I was taught not to fuck with Ouija boards. You have no idea what you're communicating with and if it may want to linger. So it's always been a hard no for me. Anyways, on to my dreams. Occasionally, I'll still have extremely vivid dreams. Some of them are like movies playing in my head. It's amazing, more often than not. But sometimes it's very frightening. I'm still not 100% on this particular instance being a dream or a sleep paralysis episode, but I assume I was sleeping or woke up, possibly. It's not clear. I remember looking to the end of the bed and there was a woman floating at the end of the bed. I don't remember if I could actually see her feet, but I could see her whole body otherwise, like fully corporeal, not transparent, not foggy, not blurry. She was terrifying. Long dark hair, dark eyes, a long dark gray, maybe black skirt that ended at her ankles. Her shirt was also gray, but a slightly lighter color, maybe 3/4 length sleeves that looked a little tattered at the edges. Her skin was pallid, like an ashen color. I'm not sure if now, years later, my brain is filling in that she was smiling creepily at me or if she was just there observing. I can't say for certain anymore. It's been a long time. She didn't move or speak, but just felt very menacing. I remember feeling my partner next to me, but not. The room was otherwise dark and very silent. I think I'd set the TV on a sleep timer to accommodate my partner's sleep, who's not a fan of having it on all the time. The next thing I know, I'm fully awake, and it's morning. It left me unsettled for a long while after that, but she never came to me again, thankfully. The next one happened way more recently. Earlier this year, actually. I was asleep in bed and remember hearing a loud bang that woke me up. I put that in quotations because I was definitely dreaming. I'm awake in the dream, frantically pushing on my partner to wake him up because I thought someone was in the house. He wasn't moving, acknowledging anything at all. Wouldn't wake up. And I remember thinking, why isn't the dog barking? She usually goes crazy at the slightest knock. And it was like I could feel both of them still in the bed with me sleeping like nothing was wrong. But I was panicking because something felt very wrong. I could see the dark bedroom around me. The TV was off again in the stream, and I could see that it was dark and quiet, even though it had been left on when I went to sleep. I can hear whoever this is, coming closer to the bedroom, and then I'm actually awake. The TV is on YouTube playing a random video, sound and all. The dog is still sleeping soundly at my feet. My partner is snoring next to me. The house is otherwise quiet. It took me a good couple hours to unwind from the adrenaline crash to finally go back to sleep after that one. These took place across a number of years, different houses, different partners. The only common denominator was me. I've also had a few dreams of relatives coming to me after they've passed. I guess as a comfort. My grandpa on my dad's side passed when I was young, but I can remember him coming to me at one time in a dream, just as a Jesus Christ.
The pigeons are getting loud.
You can hear him, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Lightning strike 4 kilometers away. Cool. And my uncle, also on my dad's side, I remember this one more vividly. I was sleeping at my dad's house after my uncle's funeral, and I remember it was dark in the house, but I was again awake, but not. And I remember seeing my uncle standing nearby. He was, I don't want to say he was glowing, but he was bathed in like a soft gold white light, but it wasn't radiating. It just lit him up. Nothing was said, but again, it felt comforting, like he was saying a final goodbye. Outside of that, I would say that since I've gotten older, I feel like I've become less receptive. Maybe being perpetually exhausted will do that. I still occasionally get feelings, impressions, the occasional movement in my peripheral, but nothing vivid that I couldn't rationalize away. I did have an extraordinarily bad feeling sometime last year. It was one of those deep senses of dread that settles into your bones. I was trying to push myself to get ready for work still, but after a bit I was just like, no, this doesn't seem like a very good idea. I'm going to trust whatever this is and just not. I'll take the day and stay home. I have a very supportive partner who was like, okay, yeah, definitely stay home instead of pushing me to go to work, so that helped. The bad feelings subsided almost immediately after that decision had been made. I have no idea why, and I guess I should probably be thankful for that. I think that about wraps up what I can really remember that stands out. You're more than welcome to use any of those on the show if you're so inclined. Thank you for taking the time, and if you've made it this far, I commend you because that was a lot. I've never actually put them all down in one place. That's pretty neat. Again, I love the show, and I'm excited to get completely caught up. You're awesome. And no, Sammy, you're awesome. Thank you for listening. Again, when the time comes far in the future when you find this episode, I hope you enjoy it just as much as you are now. Have you ever had that? I guess you have limited dream stuff, but like I've definitely had that experience where I feel like in the dream, I feel like the other people around me should be awake, but they're not. It's almost like a torment in a way. You know, they're just gone.
Yeah, or you've got that kind of nobody can hear you, or it feels like nobody can see you, and it's almost like you're invisible, but you know you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's chilling shit. I really do think there's something, and I mean, this isn't exactly a revelation, but I do think there's something to the idea that we lose some of this as we get older.
Yes.
You know, whether it is from exhaustion or just the complexities of life or a heart, maybe like an actual changing in the structure of the brain. I don't know. But I know I feel less, I have fewer experiences now than I did even 10 years ago. You know, it still happens. The paranormal is kind of an everyday part of my life, which I forget sometimes when I'm talking to normies.
Ironically, today, I was speaking to a customer in my normal job, and I said, "Oh, you live in Woolerton. Have you seen any gnomes?" And she started laughing, and she was like, "What? What are you on about?" I said, "Woolerton is where the gnomes are in Nottingham." She went, "I've lived here 30 years. I don't know what you're talking about." Started laughing. And she said, "Hang on a minute." And she said, "Right, say that again." And so I told her, she went, "Right, I'm going to Google that later." I said, "Right, okay, no problems." Then we sorted it out, started laughing. She was just laughing. And then at the end she went, "I can't believe you talked about gnomes." So yeah,
It happens, man. Sometimes, again, you get talking to normies and you forget your place. Like as you know, I've been doing this book club the last couple months. Turns out I live across the street from this guy who's in it. He's a journalist. And so we will typically walk home together and talk. And I forget again. Oh yeah, we just did an episode on haunting in South Africa, or shadow people, and realize shit. No, I can't just drop that around anyone.
And also, Sammy should be congratulated. It's the first story we've written during an impending tornado warning.
Yeah, folks, you'll hear that in the outtakes. It's been there was one point where I was reading that story and Paul told me that all of a sudden my side of the call got incredibly dark, and it's only 6:00 at night. It should be quite bright, but there is a monster storm bearing down on London, and I've had numerous sort of
end of the world messages.
Yeah, like saying like tornado warning for this mobile coverage area. Again, I don't think it's actually going to hit London. Usually it's just for the surrounding areas, but it certainly gave us some, what's the word I'm looking for, some encouragement to get the episode done.
It's exciting sitting here watching tornadoes in real life.
God, it's sort of bizarre that it happens on the day that we read OTR Trucker's message, or that we reacted to OTR Trucker's message.
We start with a story about someone fighting a tornado, and we end with you being warned about a tornado. Does that mean a tornado is going to crash into my garden? Because that's the name of the plane here. No,
tune in next episode and find out.
We get the most tornadoes in the world, but they're crap.
Really?
Yeah, they're not very good. It's big news when one happens. I mean, they're not massively bad, but we do, occasionally one went through Birmingham, strangely, a few years ago and ripped, the side of a house off. So they're not bad, but, they do some damage, But, we apparently get loads of them, but they're just piffly ones. So nowhere near, we've never had anything the level you'll see in, Tornado Alley or anything like that. Absolutely incomparable, So, people in Canada will be like going, that's not a tornado. That's a tornado. As it eats half
it's a tornado in it's got a leather jacket on. It's carrying a switchblade. It's got its hair greased back into a pompadour.
Yeah, ours looks like a little poodle by comparison.
So, Sammy, again, thank you so much for sharing those stories with us. I identify with so much of what you're talking about, like the sleeping thing. I quite often will fall asleep watching TV on the couch, and then I will a couple hours later get into bed and go to sleep. But having a TV on, I don't always need it anymore, but for a lot of my youth, I would say there's about a solid 3 months when I was living at my old house on 3rd Street in Revelstoke, where I just slept on the couch, and every night I would fall asleep to the opening 15 minutes of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I'd wake up with the sunrise with that goddamn DVD menu playing on repeat.
Just bouncing around the screen. Right, get to safety.
All right, yeah. All right, that's our final tornado alert for this show. Again, thank you very much, Sammy. And
big fan of the Wizard of Oz, everyone. But I don't want to live it.
Nope, that's nor I. But again, thank you, Sammy. Thank you to everyone who wrote in. We just appreciate you guys so much. It means the world that you want to share your experiences with us. Keep doing that. Keep sending your emails to ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. You can also fill out the form on our website at ghoststoryguys.com. You can find us on Instagram as The Ghost Story Guys. You can find us on Facebook as The Ghost Story Guys and The Ghost Story Guys Cabin. That's our private group. We're also on Reddit as r/Ghost Story Guys Podcast. We're going to take a quick break, and if I don't get blown away, we're going to do our Ghost Force shoutouts. Hey there, listeners. Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. We wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566. In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123 or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care. Welcome back. The Ghost Story Guys are Luke Greensmith, who sometimes helps us find our stories. He's also host of the Luke Lore podcast, available everywhere fine podcasts live.
Mr. Brennan Storr, our paranormal conductor.
And of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson himself, host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's coming up on M&M?
I'm delighted to welcome paranormal researcher and all-round top man, Ashley Knibb, to the show to dive into his latest book, which features his 12-year investigation into a haunted pub in Dorset known as the Roll Oak. And so we have a nice chat about that and what's been happening. And also he's a SPR committee member, the Society for Psychical Research, and he is also on their Spontaneous Cases Committee. So if you've got a poltergeist and your house is getting smashed to bits, Ashley's one of the people that will come and stop there for a bit.
Okay. And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters lurking across most social media platforms and all podcast sites.
Fabulous. I'm Largely the Truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. You can find my horror fiction show, Fear Daily, co-authored with Brandon Scheck-Snyder, everywhere fine podcasts live. You can hear me reading audiobooks on Audible, and you can find me at my personal website, largelythetruth.com. As we said at the top of the show, none of this happens without our patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. You guys are truly the engine of this great machine, and we appreciate every single one of you. And if you want to get access to bonus conversations between myself and Paul, early ad-free release of every episode, usually 3 or 4 days early at this point. I usually have the shows done on Thursday or Friday ahead of a Tuesday release. And of course, you don't have to listen to those nasty ads, which frankly I think is incentive enough. You can also get access to our monthly live stream and 5 years worth of bonus back catalog, including episodes of Host Adventures, The Sunken Library, and so much more. Again, you can get all of that by clicking the link in the show notes, heading to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or by becoming a Cabinista on Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you support us at the $20 level and above, that gets you through those pearly gates into a very elite club. The kind of club you can only buy your way into. You can't earn your way into this with good deeds. Oh no, this is more elite than even heaven. This is Ghost Force. Quick, let's get through this before I'm struck by lightning.
Not again.
This time around, the members of Ghost Force are
Ethan Saragon,
Alyssa,
Amy Chamberlain,
Beth Riley Cadwell,
Beth Whitaker,
Corrine Wilson,
CT,
Dexterous,
Eric Abel,
Hannah Brown,
Jade Moores,
Jenny Bonanani, Jenny Bonanani, Jenny Bonanani,
Jennifer Mullen,
Jeremy Kent,
Joseph Gilmore,
Liam Hudak,
Libra on Fire,
Maggie Megadeth,
Brilliant, Melinda Storms,
Mark Semler,
Merlin Hansen,
OTR Trucker,
Peter Gunn 08.5, pew pew,
Ruckin' Runny Shenanigans,
Ryan Huskin,
Shannon Steyer,
Trash Pander Kits,
Trent Cannon.
Zipper, oh no, Zipper, oh, that's right.
You are the few. You are the spooky. You are Ghost Force.
Oh, Ghost Force, oh.
For real, guys. Thank you so much. Again, we appreciate every single person who's subscribed to us, past and present. But Ghost Force, you're a special kind of crazy, and we love you for it. If you would like, amen to that. If you would like to have your name read out in that often bizarre segment, again, you can click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys and become a supporter at the Ghost Force level. Paul, my friend, do you have any guest spots coming up?
I will be appearing on a new show at the beginning of July, but I don't know what it's called yet.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I will be making an appearance at
That's
some
exciting.
point on that. So once I know what it's called, I shall let you know. But yes, that will be my upcoming appearance, which will be recorded towards the end of next month.
Very cool. I was recently on 2 episodes of Where Did the Road Go, one of which has come out for patrons, so it'll probably be out in the next couple of weeks for public, and the other which has not dropped yet. But again, you'll find all of our appearances, both mine and Paul's, linked in the blog at ghoststoryguys.com. And of course, Paul and I just recorded an appearance on the TV and movie trivia podcast with Brian Sheehan. That should be out at some point in the coming weeks. We talked about Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. And we have another spot where we're going to be talking about Mission Impossible Fallout. So keep an eye on our social media. We will post those appearances as they happen. As we mentioned earlier, if you have a story you want to share with us, send it to ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys. It is always wonderful. Even if your email doesn't make it on the show, either in the story show or Talk Spooky, please know we deeply appreciate every single one of you. We read everything you send. It means the world to us. So thank you very much, and keep on sending it in. If you can, please leave us a review wherever possible. It helps boost the numbers, gets us a little higher in the rankings. iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you happen to find Ghost Story Guys and you can leave a review, please do so. Our theme song, Radio, Into the Darkness We Go, is composed and performed by Peter Kursoff of Pizzanta Music. Find more from Peter by searching for Pizzanta Music wherever you get your tunes, or by heading to nightharvestrecordings.com. That is, of course, the Ghost Story Guys host label. And I think that's going to do it.
We'll be back next week, but until then,
Into the darkness we go.
it was a fucking shit show.
Over the course of a year, that's enough to do exactly fuck all, except provide me a small amount of solace from the daily horrors that are this world.
Who's a good lad? Juice. Who's a good boy? I was talking to you there, not to you.
Oh, I thought so. I assumed. Yeah. My buddies call me Jeff.
Gilead.
Yeah. I think at least in Gilead, people could still read.
It's not a guidebook, guys.
The reason it was the emergency broadcast alert. That's why I got up, because I'm like, that's not normal. That's a very particular kind of alert.
Wow.
All right. Well, we won't worry about it for now.
I've never seen a tornado up close.
Nope, nor I. Actually, that's not true. I did see a funnel cloud forming once when I was a kid. I'm just going to open the door very quick.
What if it's the other side?
Well, then there's a whole other building full of people between me and it, so it's got plenty to do before it gets to me.
Have you not seen Twisters?
I have. I'm trying not to think about it. Thank you very much.
I've seen enough episodes of In the Eye of the Storm, mate, that I don't want to see you on news. But, well, it went off 9 times, and I just didn't take it seriously. And then they're interviewing you like in a tree. I was going to say, it's got really dark.
There are walls of rain marching up the road. Okay, well, I guess you better get this done before we lose power.
Yes. Because while you were when you started, I could literally just watch everything behind. Everything just went really dark, and I looked at the time and I thought, "Oh."
Okay.
Yeah.